The internet has been around for my entire life. It has shaped and is continuing to shape how I grow up. The internet, which in the course of human history is a fairly recent thing, is extremely influential, especially on those of us who have never known anything else. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I don't technically understand how the internet works. I know there are computers and a database and search algorithms involved somehow, but that's the extent of my knowledge. So, I kind of think of the internet like a library. There are tons and tons of books on information and speculations besides, and instead of knowing the Dewey Decimal number of the book I'm looking for, all I have to do is search up a couple of keywords or a link. If I want to add a footnote, a book, or a whole new series to this library, I can. If I want information on Tsar Nicholas II, instead of going to the Russian history section and looking for a book that may or may not be there, all I have to do is search it up. It's the same thing if I want to learn about the history of basketball, the weather in Tokyo, how to build a table. All I have to do is Google it. Now, if I'm getting into extended library metaphors, it's important to note that not everybody everywhere has regular library access, and in some places there are restricted rooms. But in the context of where and when I'm speaking from, internet access is a pretty ubiquitous thing. And in a lot of ways, this easy access can be kind of incredible. After all, that is what the internet does best. It provides information. It has answers and questions and problems and solutions, and it's all at your fingertips. A lot of the basic information that we used to turn to books, newspapers, common sense, other people for, we now turn to the web. Because of this, I've never had to go to the library, the real library, for a research project. I've never had to thumb through an encyclopedia for a basic fact, and I don't rely on newspapers or even television as my main source of news. I can ask the internet basic questions. What's the weather today? How about in Australia? Who invented Coca-Cola? Who was the 32nd President of the United States? What's the quadratic formula? And the answer to these and more simple questions than I can even ask are there. I'm in a generation in which, for this kind of information, the internet is king. The internet and the constant information we are exposed to that goes along with it is somewhat of a defining factor for us, as well as the ease with which we stand on the shoulders of those before us. Of course, straightforward questions aren't the only questions we ask. Sometimes we are looking for more in-depth or opinionated answers, guidance, tips, if you will. How do I write a college application? Act during a job interview? A date? Was the new Spider-Man movie any good? Yes, it was. And these are the same kinds of questions that we've been asking for a long time. We've simply shifted our resource a bit. The internet hasn't changed our questions. It's just made them easier to ask. But these basic and less straightforward questions, these aren't the important questions. Sure, weather and math and Spider-Man are all very important, but those aren't the most important questions we can ask. So, if it's so easy to find information, why are there questions that keep us up at night? Why can't we answer them? Why can't what is basically the entirety of human knowledge answer them? Why do we bother asking? Going back to book analogies, I think there's a reason that coming-of-age novels such as The Catcher in the Rye or Little Women are so popular and so well-loved. I think it's because during this precarious transition period from childhood to the unknown, we're asking the right questions. When you say young people or teenagers, to put it kindly, you mean confused people, people who have no idea what they're doing. And it's true, trying to figure out what exactly is going on and where you fit into it can be pretty bemusing. But I guess one thing I've learned, I say to you as a freshman in high school, is that getting older does not make you less confused. You just learn new ways of coping with your confusion, think of even more questions you want to know the answer to. That's just being a person. Who am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Am I normal? Am I a good person? Why? These are pretty standard human condition questions. Pretty much everyone at some point in some way thinks about them. You've heard of Aristotle and Socrates, right? But despite how simple and common these questions may appear, they're not actually all that easy to answer. If any of you have a successful, definitive answer to any of these questions, I take my hat off to you. But honestly, I don't think you do. I don't think any of us do. I think these are the kinds of questions that don't have actual answers, maybe just truths that aren't facts, non-tangible ideas, even more questions to ask. We don't ask these questions because we genuinely expect answers or because Googling the meaning of life will give us a better answer than 42. That would be nice, right? I think we ask these questions because we are human, and that is what we do. We question and we marvel at our existence and we struggle to find meaning, and over again, we keep asking why. The importance of these questions, it's not the answers. It's that they make us look at ourselves, each other, and the world around us and use them as a guide as we search for the truth within ourselves, as we live our lives and make our marks. Just because Google can't answer them doesn't mean we should or are going to stop asking them. In fact, it's all the more reason we should. Thank you.